In today's video, we're going to be fishing with Captain Mike from Down and Tight Sportfishing near Pulaski, New York in Mexico Bay. We'll leave his information down here in the box below. It didn't take us too long to get set up on the fish, and you may recognize this familiar face. This is Mike from Dream Chaser Sportfishing. He was our first mate on our other video. The conditions had changed pretty dramatically since the day before. The day before was pretty flat and sunny, and this obviously was not. And the water temperature had dropped approximately 10 degrees as well, and so the fish were acting a little bit differently, but it didn't take us long to find a wolf pack. For the most part, we're going to be using Northeast Troller products here. There are going to be a couple of different custom patterns in the mix. I'll try to name each one as they come up on video. Unfortunately, my GoPro had kind of slipped out of its position and was pointing at the floor most of the morning, and so I didn't really get any good GoPro video from that side of the boat when this rod went off. But here we are, tripled up. This is pretty exciting, and the pressure was on to see if we could keep them all buttoned up. So Pete's fish was the first to come to the boat, and if you've done any amount of king fishing before, you know that sometimes there's a little bit of line tangle action going on there, so we're trying to sort out whose line is over whose. And this fish came in on a Northeast Troller, Confused Carlson. Captain Mike is actually the one that named this pattern, and this has been absolutely deadly all season. As you can hear from the GoPro footage, this was a pretty big king, and so we were all pretty excited when it hit the deck. Next up to the net is my fish. This one was way out on a planer board rod, and this came on a custom painted King of Sting J plug. I'd done a number of J plugs for the fleet of charters here towards the latter part of the season. Now the pressure's really on Johnny to get this third and final fish of our triple landed and in the boat. You always kind of hold your breath a little bit with these dipsy fish. There's some extra line there that you have to hand line in, and so things feel a little tense. This fish came on a custom painted paddle that's glow white with green dots on the front and a stripe down the back. As you can see, both Pete and Jonathan had real respectable fish here, and mine was kind of the runt of the litter. After we got the boat put back together after our triple, we had a couple of short strikes that had nobody home. After a few more minutes, we took a good strike on this copper rod, and it was pretty clear that that fish was pinned pretty hard. I think at one point in time there was like 550 feet of line out on this fish, so he was running for Canada. As I'm working the fish, I look over and I see the middle rigger rod starting to bounce a little bit, and honestly I thought that maybe we were scraping the bottom. So I yell over to Mikey, "What's going on with this rod here?" Turns out we were doubled up again. Pete's fish was the first to the boat, being close on that rigger, and this came on a confused Carlson pattern again. And after reeling in what felt like miles of copper line, finally my fish was ready to come into the boat. This one came on a custom painted froggy style pattern with a white glow back and then the frog pattern on the front. After our triple to start the day and our double to follow up, surprisingly our fish just shut right down after that. And so we cycled through a bunch of lures and ate a bunch of snacks, sang and danced. I'm not sure the internet's ready to see that. And did some arm wrestling and slap boxing, and finally passed some time and the fish became active again. Johnny was on the spot for this one. This strike actually came on the very first meat rig that I've ever tied. I had been testing out a handful of different things this summer, and this is one of them. And so when the rod went off, I was admittedly nervous. You always wonder, are the knots going to hold or is something going to break? This fish came on a 12-inch fish-shaped confused Carlson pattern paddle flasher. Like I said, with a meat rig that I had tied up, and the flies on this meat rig are tied by a pal of mine, Matthew Cam, in a miniature green goblin style pattern. So we all breathed a pretty heavy sigh of relief when this fish hit the deck. The bite had decidedly slowed down at this point in time, and all of the other charter captains in the area were experiencing the same thing. So we continued on with our pattern of having snacks and just trying to keep an eye on the rods. This king came on a paddle that they call the Big Stupid. It's a Hulk style pattern on the front and then a Mountain Dew tape on the back. Unfortunately, my GoPro battery had died and I didn't notice it. This was a funny one, actually. We were tending the rod, trying to swap out color patterns, and I popped the downrigger and I felt a thump and set the hook pretty good, and it was fish on.
He's running right at you. Right at the boat.
This king decided to have a bad attitude when it came up to the boat. It was racing us up the side and trying to tangle into some other lines. Eventually we got it to agree with us, and this one came on a chrome Valium paddle. And this was going to be the last fish for the day for us. I think we finished one fish shy of a limit. Thank you again to Captain Mike for an incredible day of king salmon fishing. If you are in the Pulaski, New York area and looking for a charter captain, I can't highly recommend Captain Mike enough to you. His information will be down below. Thank you again. Like I said, Captain Mike will put you on fish and keep you laughing while he's doing it.